on the dire financial situation for the Democratic National Committee, now less than 100 days until the midterm elections. The New York Times reports the Democratic Party is so short on cash that leaders are asking vendors not to send bills until after the midterm elections.
Not good.
The paper spoke to 3 people briefed on the move who called it a bookkeeping maneuver. The paper highlights a cash disparity between the two parties, noting that President Trump controls a $400 million super PAC. The Republican National Committee is sitting on nearly $130 million, while the DNC is $2 million in debt.
Yeah.
The news outlet Notice also has new reporting on the DNC putting its physical headquarters up for collateral last year in order to obtain a $15 million line of credit
this is just
to
so
help
pathetic.
invest in off-year elections.
This is so pathetic.
The New York Times also details the chaos inside the DNC, centered around Chairman Ken Martin. According to interviews with more than 24 Democrats, Martin has found himself increasingly isolated, gripped by fear that he will lose his job, and relying on a vanishingly small circle of people he trusts. The paper also reports that in a peak of frustration earlier this month, Martin threw his phone at the desk of a junior aide while upbraiding the person. The phone tossing incident resulted in a formal complaint to the DNC's HR department. None of the people the Times spoke to witnessed the encounter, and there was some dispute over how aggressively the phone was tossed.
See, that's the key. How aggressively was the phone tossed?
Are we really in the weeds this deep? As Mr. Martin was said to have thrown the phone at the desk rather than at the aide.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, let's bring you to the conversation. Former White House Communications Director under President Obama, Jen Palmieri, and veteran Democratic political strategist Adrian Elrod. Man, I got to say, first of all, John Heilman, I'm going to you because I know you saw Tropic Thunder. Who knew the DNC would pick Les Grossman as their as the head of their... He is Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder. And not only that, I'm sorry, with the president's approval ratings at an all-time low, with the ballot test at an all-time high for Democrats, with Democratic candidates raising money, John Ossoff, I mean, good Lord, they're raising money left and right. But they still are at this huge disadvantage because Ken Martin is, get this, when Democrats should be doing better than ever, Ken Martin is mortgaging the DNC to be able to pay bills. I'll say that again. You have a DNC head that is mortgaging the building so he can take out a loan, and when he's not doing that, the New York Times reports that he's going full, and you never go full Les Grossman, but he's gone full Les Grossman, throwing the phone at the desk.
You don't want to go full Les Grossman. You don't want to go full Les Grossman. No.
Baby, you never go full Les Grossman.
Okay, even I know what you're talking about.
You don't go full Les Grossman.
You don't do it,
though.
Just stop.
Can I ask you this question, though, about Democrats?
Okay,
if a Republican had raised no money like 3 or 4 months ago, this is not a new story. 3 or 4 months ago, I was asking people, why does this guy still have a job? I don't know Ken Martin. I'm sure he's a wonderful guy. I'd like to play Parcheesi with him sometime.
No.
But if you're in debt, while the Republicans have almost $200 million, you got to go. Why is this guy still in his job? Will Democrats once again snatch defeat from the jaws of victory?
Well, Joe, first of all, let's just note that when there's a story written about you, I think Jen Palmieri will agree with me. She's a very, very sophisticated, experienced communications professional.
Sophisticated.
I think she'll agree with me when I say that when the question about a story written about the principal is how hard did they throw the phone And was the phone thrown directly at someone or more at the desk than at the person?
Knuckle curve.
You are in trouble when those are the questions in the story.
Knuckle curve.
That's not necessarily, because what you want to do when you have a bad story like that is pick the fight you want to have.
Right.
Do you want to fight about how you were in debt, or do you want to fight over the phone? And in this case, maybe fighting over the phone was a better option.
So Joe, just to answer your question, I mean, look, there have been some bad party chairs, I would say, in both parties over the course of the last 20 years, and it's reflective of the fact that really never in our politics have the national parties as structures, organizations, been less relevant to our politics than they are now. We've privatized almost entirely the process of raising money for the parties. The parties don't have really any control over their memberships.
Forgive me for interrupting. Forgive me for interrupting, John. But really quickly, the Supreme Court changed all that a week or two ago when they empowered the national parties to spend money in a way they hadn't before. So now they're more powerful than they've ever been.
They have regained some of their power. We'll see how that all plays out, Joe. I agree with you in prospect. I'm just saying that was not the case when Ken Martin was chosen. So just to say, this is not to take anything away from how bad Ken Martin's been. I'm saying there have been a bunch of bad ones in both parties as the national parties have lost relevance. But Ken Martin really does stand out. I can't say that I think from the day that he won the job until today, he's had a good news cycle. There's just been a series of snafus that sort of just spell not up to the job, Jen. I would say whether it's the autopsy, obviously one thing, badly managed, terribly executed, disappointing to all factions in that, no matter where you are in the argument about why Democrats lost in 2024. I think there is a question of whether Democrats, and I think the answer to this is going to be, if Democrats win that control of the House and Senate, Ken Martin, despite all of this, will probably be safe in that job. If Democrats somehow fail to lose, certainly if they don't take at least one of the houses, but if they lost both those houses, Ken Martin will be out very quickly. Maybe if they, depending on how they perform in the House, might be able to cling. But what do you think about the future of him? It doesn't really matter who the chairman of the Democratic Party is at this stage, because so many of these fundamentals about the economy, about Donald Trump, et cetera, are so much more important to determining how these elections are going to go.
Yeah, and that the individual candidates matter more, and the fact that, it's just, we know before, like John Ossoff is raising as much money as he is, and all these Senate candidates and House candidates are raising a lot of money. And the thing that, there is a defense to be made. The reason why they are in debt, I guess, from the Times, is because they're spending a lot of money on infrastructure and state parties. And that was the theory of Ken Martin's chairmanship, and he is, if you want to have like a defense of him, and that's what he's implementing. There are some people that think that is working. But in terms of him, I think what people might not understand about how this committee operates is it's a committee of 535 people, made up of DNC members. Those people elected Ken Martin, and those people are Ken Martin's boss. And unless Leader Jeffries and Leader Schumer want to come in and try to force him out and rally the members to do that, that's not going to change. And once you stopped raising money, that just collapses on top of itself.
Adrian, the Republicans have raised more money than ever before. They've got all the advantages financially. They are awash in cash because of Donald Trump, the money at the RNC, the way the court now says the RNC can use the money. So that's number one. So this does matter. It matters greatly if you're like us and believe that the strength of American democracy depends in large part how this election goes, and whether what Donald Trump has done over the past 2 years is confirmed by voters or rejected by voters. That's number one. Number two, the Democrats are in debt. They are in debt coming into August of an election year. I would say the most important midterm election in our lifetime. They are in debt. And number three,
how's that possible?
What a Democratic thing to do, to say, well, if we lose, if we hand full ultimate power, autocratic power over to Donald Trump, over the next 2 years, instead of taking control of the House of the Senate, which we should do if you look at every single poll that's out there, well, then we'll change this bureaucrat that nobody's heard of or nobody knows. Republicans, let me tell you, Ken Martin right now would be flipping patties on the back grill at the Capitol Hill Club. There's no way Republicans would keep a guy like this who had his party in debt still running that party. It's not a close call. Democrats say, oh, we don't deserve nice things. How do we keep losing? All the British Democrats, it's hard to say, Caddy. I don't know why. Maybe because they have all these British whiners in there, but we don't deserve
That's not how Democrats talk.
They don't deserve good things.
And why are you going to Caddy?
I just did a British accent.
I know.
Of course, we all know the DNC has a lot of Democrats. But let me tell you something. And they got Les Grossman. Anybody else would have been fired for throwing a phone at an aide or at the top of an aide's desk or wherever he threw it. Like, how does this guy have his job? And if Democrats don't get rid of him right away and put somebody like Rahm in, somebody like Rahm, that a lot of people in the party hates. But, you know, Rahm knows how to win elections. And I know that for some people that just doesn't matter. But Rahm knows how to fight, win, and raise money. Get him with somebody else that's done this before who knows how to win. And get the phone throwing Les Grossman guy. Get him flipping patties at the DNC fundraiser next week.
Adrian.
That's all I got to say.
Look, I could not agree with you more on this show, but here's a couple of things. The good news is the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, the two major party committees that have a lot of jurisdiction over the midterms, they are raising a lot of money. Our candidates are out raising the Republicans. That is the good news. But the bad news, Joe, to your point, is right after the midterms, we got to focus on the presidential campaign. And if we are going into 2027 with a national Democratic Party that is in debt, that is a huge disadvantage to the field that is coming forward to start the primary process. I mean, look, here's a couple of things, Joe. Number one, it's not working with the current situation. Number two, if Ken Martin does stay in the job, which Paul Mary laid out a very smart point, it's not up to us. It is up to the Democratic National Committee members who will decide this. And it's also probably up to the banks who will decide whether or not they can continue to fund the line of credit and to fund a party that's currently in debt. But here's the thing. Why not call former DNC Chair Terry McAuliffe? Why not call Rahm? Why not call former DNC Chair Donna Brazile? Build a committee of co-chairs. Tell each of them, you got to raise me $5 million or whatever the dollar amount is by the end of this year. You know, empower the party that we have. We have so many great fundraisers in this party. Call every major donor, ask them to max out. My understanding is a lot of the big donors who have given to the DNC have not been called yet. Like, pull Hail Marys, do everything you can to get as much money in the door. Because the bottom line is, Paul Mary can also tell you this, we worked on Hillary Clinton's campaign in 15 and 16. She unfortunately did inherit a crippled DNC that had lost a lot of money to Organizing for Action, which is where the Obama campaign put a lot of their money. And we had a hard time because we didn't have the infrastructure in place that we needed. So the good news is we've got some time, not much time, but we've got some time. But the bottom line is we got to start now. And whether that's Ken Martin doing this or someone else, we got to raise the money and we got to build the infrastructure so that we can be strong and we can capitalize on these Republican challenges that they have and Trump's extreme unpopularity.
Yeah, exactly. And Caddy K, let me just say right now, I apologize for my British accent. I hope you weren't offended. I didn't think I was stereotyping all British whiners. I think I still have this sort of, I think this hangover from the World Cup. You know, it's like you listen to people like English fans. Oh, we always do this.
I mean, you have
we
to
don't
stop.
deserve to win. And that's, of course, that's Harry Kane. That's him talking like that. So, you know, but yeah, it's tough sledding for this Democratic Party. They're in a great position, and yet they're in debt. They're having to mortgage their own building, and they got Les Grossman running things.
Yeah, I mean, Ron would probably do a better job, and it wouldn't just be the phone being thrown at the table. So, but maybe that's what the party needs right now. I mean, that would be kind of a minimal amount of the story. I mean, you even look at what's happening up in Maine in the reports of Troy Jackson. He has no money. He's got $1 million up against what she has something like close to 30 million ready to go on advertising. So in each state, they're going to have to fix this, especially in a state like Maine. So how can the Democrats pull themselves out of this hole? Our next guest also has new reporting on the Democratic National Committee. Lauren Egan's latest piece for the Bldg is entitled, "It's Got From Bad to Worse to Perilous at the DNC." Lauren joins us now. How could it get worse than it was, Lauren? Where do we go from here?
Well, look, the Democratic National Committee is going into August with $2 million in debt. That is pretty bad. I think there was some hope at the beginning of the year that Ken Martin was going to be able to turn this around, that once we got into 2026, some of these big donors would come back to the table, and that clearly just hasn't happened in a very meaningful way. And the big concern now is that Ken Martin is essentially driving the DNC to irrelevance. The whole point of the DNC in a midterm year is to basically act as a bank and to give out money to the big party committees, the DS, the D-Trip, and Martin can't do that right now. So there is essentially no coordinated campaign going on amongst these party committees. And that is, again, the DNC's entire purpose is to do that in a midterm election year. So his relevance is just completely gone down the toilet. And it's really not a great situation. You brought up Maine, and I think that's a really good thing to point to, is that we can ask, well, you know, should the DNC just kind of like sit on the sidelines for this election? But where the DNC really matters is when there's a crisis like what we saw in Maine with Democrats, and all of a sudden overnight, they need a lot of money flooded into that state, and the DNC just can't do that.